It's Monday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Morayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I never do this alone. I have the ladies. Hey, Obiajulu. How you doing?
Excellent morning.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. So I spent my weekend making my plans, writing my health and wellness goal. So I realized that sometimes when I don't write things and I don't see them, I'm not able to follow through. So when I have it in my head, I want to be doing exercises and I don't have anywhere that I'm walking and I'm passing, I'm seeing it, I won't follow through. So I decided to
what do you do
put
when you
it
write
down.
down?
So I write it and paste it on my wardrobe so that anytime I do my exercise, I go and tick the ones I've done. That gives me hope that I'm achieving that goal. So I've done it and I'm going to be doing it with Oga because he doesn't like exercise. I've been begging him that we need to start working out. We need to stay fit. We're eating, I'm getting really big. I'm scared. Some of my clothes are no longer fitting.
No, you're fine. You're good. I'm telling you, I'm on that table, trust me. We had that conversation. Mariel, you're getting really big. Yeah. So we need to really work on it. Yeah.
It's almost unavoidable.
How are you doing, Nima?
I'm good though. I had a full packed weekend.
Wow.
I drove into the street fight at the Alafia area of Badagry Expressway. It's notorious for school children coming out throwing stones and cutlasses and fighting.
Whoa.
And then they jumped in front of my car wanting me to stop. Me knowing that area, because I've lost a former classmate there that was robbed by being stabbed. Just drove straight, so they used cutlass to hit my car. And I'd like to call on the authorities, important to do that, do the needful about that. But then on a good note, I just want to shout out to every mother out there, those who have
Wait,
You've not finished the first gist
somebody
now.
put cutlass and smashed your car,
I'm telling
and
you.
you're just moving on like this. Nothing happened.
In that area, you don't stop. That's it. You don't stop. And the police station is the Orile police station. It was just down the road, and the boys were having a field day. You'd expect that their parents would have called. And the way mothers and families just raise their children there, and they are so. It worries me. It worries me. But we thank God for life.
No, let's greet mothers, as you're saying.
On a good note, I must shout out to my mother first, and all those mothers that I have. I have plenty of them who know how to mother children who are not biologically theirs. Alaja Badru, a lot of other mothers who reached out, who have contributed in one way or the other to the final product that I am today.
Fantastic.
I must say thank you to all of them.
So we're all greeting our mothers. Yes, all of us.
My auntie.
We're also our mothers too.
Yes. A lot of people know how to be mothers. Beyond them being our mothers, because my friends in the UK, 2 of them called and were asking, how is mommy? Let mommy know I'm doing well. I was like, okay, so my mother is still mother to a lot of people.
Okay, we have to run, but yes.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm just like life goals. I think I'm on that journey now.
Yeah, okay.
Deciding the next steps in life, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying having a conversation, writing it down, and start working towards
Pasting
it.
it somewhere you can see it.
I didn't do pasting,
Okay.
but it's a good idea.
Okay.
I've done it. I did pasting when I was much younger.
It works.
I did the Oprah pasting many years ago, but I'll go back to pasting. I like it. Let's go on a break. It's Monday. We have so much to talk about today, but first, let's go through the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Right, we're going to start with The Nation. Madagascar's COVID-19 cure drug sent to Nigeria. Foreign investors free to repatriate funds, says CBN. 17 Chinese illegal miners for trial. 160 stranded Nigerians arrived from U.S. Nigeria to receive Madagascar's COVID-19 cure drugs. And Justice Oluwa forthright say Buhari and Tinubu someone mourns. Okay, let's talk about Madagascar, then we'll talk about the Chinese.
The major story. Okay, so the Republic of Madagascar has offered this herbal drug, COVID Organics, that's what it's called, to Nigeria and other African countries. Right now, the one that is supposed to be meant for Nigeria is in Equatorial Guinea. It will be airlifted from there to Abuja sometime, maybe this week or next. So, but there are a lot of controversies, so to speak. People are saying NAFDAC and one other body, that's the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research, are saying that they must subject this organics, herbal medicine to test before giving it to any Nigerian. Some other countries are saying they're going to be having clinical trials, like South Africa is saying they will have to subject it to clinical trials before they administer to their people, that we can't just, you know, bring it in and start giving to people. So what Lagos State is telling us that we have nothing to be afraid of. They are not going to give us anything they have not really tested before they give to the people. I'm happy that they have released this to us. I want us to, you know, try as much as possible to test it as quickly as we can so that we can,
let's explore
clinical
that
testing can take
it takes time.
It take a while, and we're in a situation we might not. So if they should at least consider willing candidates who are, you know, willingly volunteering to use the
let's
drug.
take the other Chinese story.
Yeah, so about 17 Chinese illegal miners recently apprehended in Osun State mining our gold freely will be prosecuted, along with 2 others that were, you know, earlier arrested somewhere in Zamfara, mining gold freely as well. The government has said that they would, the Minister for Mines and Steel, speaking now, has said that all these illegal miners will be prosecuted. And he said in the write-up that, you know, they are the major non-indigents involved in the mining of our gold, our mineral resources.
Okay, I was just going to, because I don't think Justice Isiaka Olu was anywhere else, just to say that he passed on, and the former governor of Lagos State Senator Tinubu was describing him as a man of integrity, and he was a good man. Let's take Punch very quickly. Home treatment will increase infections, enemy nurses warn. Woman dies in Lagos church during childbirth, prophetess arrested. How EFCC arrested me over 1,600 naira, says Benue Shawarma dealer. Father-son defile Osun teenager get pregnant. Federal government saved 361 billion naira from IPPEs despite opposition. Why I'm staying away from partisan politics, says Jonathan. And FG warns VCs against reopening universities. Okay, let's take the major headline first.
Yes,
and then
so
we'll take
the Nigerian Medical Association and the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives on Sunday are cautioning the federal government against home treatment of COVID-19 patients, saying that this would, instead of, you know, curing and helping to minimize the amount of patients who get contacted, who contract the disease, is going to increase it, because we need to pay attention to the way most of these families live. We are majorly in crowded compounds, crowded houses, so you cannot effectively isolate people who have COVID-19 with other people who don't have. World Health Organization gave out, you know, standards that you can use in case you want to start looking at, because they are saying that we have just about 3,500 bed spaces, and we need to start looking for other strategies on how to curb this. So they are saying that if you even have to, it doesn't have to be people who have the virus in all seriousness, yes. So it has to be with the mild symptoms, and then you make sure that the plates they are using will be different. They are going to be in ventilated spaces.
Lagos State said that all critical patients, anybody that's with that critical stage, would definitely be treated at the hospitals, not in the home. So they are not even looking at that option for now. A woman actually was delivered by a nursing prophetess in the church. It was a CC, Celestial Church of Cherubim and Seraphim Church. And she bled to death. I think there was complications after the child was born. And the neighbors called in, and they saw the prophetess there, and immediately rushed the baby to the hospital. The baby survived. The baby survived. And it was really sad, though. But I think we do allow nurse attendants to take care of baby. They call them the home delivery. We do allow it, but the point is that once there's a complication, the midwives, once there's complication, you must alert the doctor. Once there's a situation you cannot handle.
If you have the training, because Lagos, you know, they've sort of brought them into the system by training. But if you don't have the training, you can't even tell when there'll be complications around the delivery.
So we need to, they need to investigate to be sure this woman actually was licensed to actually deliver at home. Moving on now to Daily Trust very quickly. Outcry as Nigerians wait for 1 week to get COVID-19 results. Wike demolishes 2 hotels for flouting lockdown order. Kano loses another monarch. 150 died in Azare within 30 days, says Bauchi governor. And investors gain 500 billion naira on week-long bullish market trend. Okay, let's start with the major headline.
Yeah, so Nigerians are crying out for those who have to wait for the COVID-19 tests. It's taking them like a week before they get the results, and a lot of them, out of the fear, the panic, some of them die, some of them get worse while they are waiting for the results. NCDC, on the other hand, is saying that this the testing and getting the results is taking a lot of time, sometimes depending on the location. So they have to take the testing to a lab in another location where it's going to take them time to get back the results, but normally the result takes like 24 to 48 hours, but because of the distance, they have to even get logistics, transport companies to work with them in order to ship those results. And the results, if they are going to be taken to a testing lab outside the state, they have to make sure that it's plenty. You don't just take one or two, you need to gather
in a related story,
them.
we see, I think, so some of the patients and the hospitals, especially in Abuja, are running away. And the reason why they're running away is because they've been tested, usually have to be tested twice or 3 times before you're confirmed to be positive and then released. So they get the first test.
Negative and then
it's negative. The second time, they don't wait for the second test
they
leave. Others are, they get the second result and they're actually discharged. But many of them are not waiting for that second result, and that's the issue they're having. And they're also saying that because of this, the long time it's taking to actually get the result is a problem. So Kano State has lost another monarch. That's Alhaji Yusuf Bayero. He's a younger brother to the late Emir of Kano, Alhaji Ado Bayero. So we're losing a lot of, quite a number of important people in Kano State.
He's the younger brother, so it's not old age, Abi?
Well, it may not be old age.
We don't know.
Moving on now to Daily Sun. 8 killed, houses destroyed in Taraba. Wike demolishes 2 hotels for flouting lockdown directive. COVID-19, doctors raise alarm over low testing. Picture here of Nigerians, 160 Nigerians returning from the US. Why I'm staying away from partisan politics, says Jonathan. And coronavirus, patients in Abuja go wild as death toll rises. 160 Nigerians arrive. Okay,
major headline.
Yes.
So this Jokun and thief crisis is still prevalent in Taraba. 8 people were killed and houses were destroyed when they clashed again, a communal clash between those Jokun and Taraba and thief communities in the state. I wonder what the government is doing. I thought it had been settled by previous administrations.
Okay, let's talk about Governor Wike.
Yes, so the River State Governor, Wike, demolished 2 hotels for disobeying the state government's Executive Order 6, which in that executive order, it was stated that hotels should not operate across the 23 local governments. So, but some of the hotels decided to go on, and then he supervised the demolition, saying that he doesn't care who you are, you must obey the law, whether you are from PDP or any other party. You must obey.
Related story to Lagos State did the same thing, but they locked down the hotels.
Yes,
they didn't demolish.
That is what Masob was saying.
Yes.
Lagos State they're well guided. Apart from Lagos State having a lockdown rule, the House of Assembly within Lagos passed a law. So they're not relying on an executive order. And we're not under a military administration where executive orders can then be done like this. And he has a fallout with the Commissioner of Police, so he had to enforce himself.
Yes.
A lot of things are not right in the way Governor Wike. There's a basic principle of law, which is principle of natural justice. This is missing here because the moment you pass an executive order and you do not give the court the opportunity to hear that side,
Two sides.
the court, you cannot take out the court.
So can they sue him?
Of course. And I'm wondering, even if he wants to come under immunity, I would like them to test the court and, find a way to bring him personally.
Okay, moving on now to Vanguard, our final paper. Southern Middle Belt leaders raise alarm over Almajiri invasion. Ganduje will fight over positive COVID-19 Almajiri. Let's talk about the Almajiri very quickly before we run off.
Yes, so, okay, you wanted to go?
No, you go.
Okay,
the
leaders of the Southern Middle Belt Forum are urging Nigerians to open their eyes. They are actually appealing to the federal government because what they see now is a lot of Almajiris, a lot of young men from the north smuggling themselves through trucks with food and coming down to the south and the east, saying that, there was a release sometime that Boko Haram was targeting the east and the west. And so they are saying that this could be. And the fact that we have even banned interstate travels, how come these people are being able to, how come are they smuggling them in?
Along with the governor of Kaduna State complaining that 15 of the people that came into his state, young boys were...
Not just 15, they were initially 50.
Yes.
And now another 15.
No, that increased the number. There are positive Almajiri children, but this is them, all of them playing politics. With the Almajiri lives, that these boys need care right now. He too has received some Almajiri into Kano State and they've tested positive, and he's not playing politics with the matter.
Say that noise making. That's what he said.
Yeah,
They're making noise.
Yeah,
Don't make
playing
noise. Just go and treat them.
I wanted to understand
We
the
have to
politics.
run. Unfortunately,
I'm even
being
off.
from
Okay,
we have to run. Unfortunately, that's all we can take. That when we come back, we discuss Senate calls for decentralization of Nigeria police. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So, as part of measures to reposition the nation's security apparatus and ensure its efficiency, the Senate on Tuesday clamored for the decentralization of the Nigeria police. The upper legislative chamber also called on the 36th State House of Assembly to pass laws that would legalize community policing in their respective states. Joining us on the show is a Senate spokesman and Chairman Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Senator Surajudeen Basiru. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Good to have you on the show. So, community policing, decentralized police, it's a subject we've been talking about for so long. And we're happy that the Senate is obviously taking it quite seriously. There were wide-ranging recommendations the Senate made at the House. Could you help us break it down once more, let our viewers understand what you're proposing for the state government, how to decentralize the police so far?
The proposition by the Nigerian Senate came against the background of a committee set up and headed by the Senate leader to look at the entire security architecture in Nigeria. The report of the ad hoc committee is on Nigerian security challenges, and the focus is on the urgent need to restructure, review, and reorganize the current security architecture. In the report, the Nigerian police, being a central organization in the area of internal security, was examined. And the position of the Senate in terms of recommendation is that there's a need to decentralize the police commands, not decentralization administratively, but with operational and budgetary powers to be vested in the zonal command as follows. If you look at the structure of the present Nigerian police, whereby you have a single command structure for a police force that is a shadow responsibility for about 180 or 200 million people, is absolutely unwieldy and it's not given for efficiency. But beyond the zonal command structure that will be operational and that will have its own budget, there are also far-reaching recommendations on having zonal security council that will comprise of stakeholders in the zone.
Right.
There will also be state security council, which should be expanded beyond just the governor of the state meeting with the police.
Right.
The composition of the State Security Council now includes the governor, the zonal AIG of police, state commissioner, military commander, immigration, custom, correctional services, first-class areas and chairman of emirates, paramount traditional rulers, leaders of faith, senators from the state, members of the federal representatives, speaker of the House of Assembly,
Right.
secretary of trade unions,
Okay.
labor, trade unions, and so on and so forth.
All right. Let me pause you
The
for a
other
second
aspect-
because, I mean, we have very limited time, so I want to get in as many questions as possible.
So this Senate committee proposed 13 zonal areas. How did they arrive at these zonal commands? Because we know we have different states and then different governors. If governors are supposed to be part of each of their zonal commands, how did you arrive? Did it, with the states that would form the command?
Specifically listed the various zonal commands that we have, and that is enumerated in the report. For instance, you have Kano, Jigawa, and Katsina, to be a zonal police
So
command.
an example would be Kano, Jigawa, and Katsina now. So those three governors
Yes.
now will have to be under one zonal command. How did you arrive at
For
that?
instance,
What if there's a clash?
Lagos, it is question of contiguity. When you look at the zonal command of Kano, Jigawa, Katsina, there's also the zonal command of Sokoto, Zamfara, Kebbi. They come from what is regarded as the northwest geopolitical zone in Nigeria. Then in the southwest, for instance, you have Lagos and Ogun as a zonal command. Then Oyo, Osun, Ekiti, and Ondo as a zonal command. Effectively, you have a situation whereby you have about two or so within each of the geopolitical zones as their zonal command.
All right, sir. So the Southwest established Amotekun just before COVID-19. And now in the 13 zones which you have given, we have Lagos and Ogun as one zone and Oyo, Osun, and Ondo as another. Where is the situation? What's the situation of Amotekun in this? Because the 5 of them were supposed to have Amotekun as their security outfit.
The fact that Amotekun corps are being set up is not in any way derogating from the effectiveness and power of the Nigerian police. And as you know, each state of the assembly passed the Amotekun as law in their respective states. It's just a signal of collaboration and support between the Southwest regional government. This cannot derogate from constitutional power and responsibility of Nigeria to have its police. As a matter of fact, even as a senator, I've introduced a private member bill to establish state police, and this has passed the second reading in the Senate and has been sent to the Constitutional Review and the committee. The issue of security is so vital to the development of our people, to realization of our economic agenda, and to the realization of the core mandate of government as enshrined in Section 14 of our Constitution, which provide that security and welfare of the people is the paramount purpose of government. So we cannot do more. We cannot do excess when it comes to security.
Let me ask you about funds, because I know Lagos State has a security trust fund where people come together to support what they need for security. Security is not cheap. Many of these states are not revenue generating. So, and I know the upper chamber had advised that the states actually fund it. How would they fund it when they don't? Where would they get that money from?
I think the question of revenue will also involve holistically to look at even the revenue sharing formula of the country. A situation whereby the central government share about 52% of national resources and the 36 states and they have to share 26% or so. I think it does not augur well for even fair and equitable distribution of national resources. So holistically, in terms of funding, the funding structure has also been looked at even in the context of the report. And for instance, when it comes to community policing, the recommendation is to the effect that the federal government will give grants to all the states, depending on the capacity and structure of their community policing, to be able to effectively fund it. Then there will also be a direct allocation to the local government for the purpose of funding the community policing that has been there. So the funding is a challenge, but then you have to look at whatever formula we need to be able to ensure that we fund our security in the country.
Okay, sir. So for the layman, I want us to understand the clear implication of the Senate's position. So are you saying now that we are going to be having the federal police, the state police, and community police?
No, the context of the report that we are talking about, which is the ad hoc committee of the Nigerian Senate, is talking of decentralization of the Nigerian police. And what that means is that there will be need to change the constitution to ensure that the Nigerian police is not just one hierarchical and structure which has at the top of the pyramid the General Police, and whereby all commands will have to go to him. There will now be zonal police command, which is part of the Nigerian police, and then effectively have his own operational and budgetary
Allocations.
independence or autonomy to ensure flexibility, to ensure adaptability and dynamism in terms of addressing the challenges that will be faced in the respective states. And of course, going further would be the idea of me presenting a private member bill, which is not yet part of our law, on possibility of setting a police force, which will be state police with its own distinct jurisdiction.
Right.
But that, in any event, will still not affect having a national security architecture in the form of the Nigerian police.
All right.
Now, under this new arrangement, now they no longer have to, resort to the IG before they take instructions, and they work in tandem with the governors under their zones. One of the criticisms that people have had against decentralization, of course, is the abuse of those systems by governors under it, which is why I was asking, when there is a clash between the two or three governors within a zone, what provisions have the Senate made to resolve such clashes?
The Senate recommendation is not to put the decentralized police under the command or control of any of the governor or the governors in the zone.
Okay.
What has been provided for is that there will be zonal advisory council, and I've enumerated the wide-ranging composition of that council, which will include private individuals in form of traditional rulers and the religious leaders. Even senators from that zone will be part of it. So then, secondly, too, you cannot talk about the possibility of abuse as a basis to say that Nigeria police should not be decentralized or that the state should not have a role there. All over the world, I find part of political theory is that power is has propensity of being abused. The bulwark against abuse of power in any capacity is to have independence of judiciary and to have the rule of law. Even in advanced democracy, there are also sometimes where there is an infraction of the rights of the people. But we must strengthen our judiciary in order to be able to ensure that rights are protected. There's no way you cannot abolish that there will be a fraction of rights of the individual by any form of structure, whether Nigerian police or state police.
We have to wrap up, but very quickly, what's the time frame we're looking at? Because we're hearing decentralization forever. Now that it seems the Senate is taking it seriously, could you give us a time frame that the zonal will be set up, the zonal zones will be set up, and then the committee would actually be able to give us some actions being done?
I think the first time the Nigerian Senate, to the best of my knowledge, will come up with a recommendation on decentralization. And the action framework for it is that, one, there will be a need to amend even the Constitution to provide for decentralization. There will also, as part of the recommendation, to amend key legislation that impact on our security, which include the Police Act, even the Civil Defense Act, the Immigration Act, the Customs Act, all the corpus of legislation impacting, relating to, and connected with Nigerian security will have to be amended. Then, of course, there will be framework for budgetary and also setting up the necessary administrative structure to carry the recommendations into reality.
Thank you so much.
Part of our legislative agenda is to ensure that we carry this through by the grace of God before this year ends.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning. We appreciate your presence. We've been speaking with the chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Senator Surajudeen Basiru. Let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll continue. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So recently, the National Bureau of Statistics released a report saying a staggering 82.9 million Nigerians are living in abject poverty, amounting to about 40.1% of our population. Today, we'll be focusing on the impact of COVID-19 outbreaks on the nation's economy, with our main focus on job loss, the way companies are downsizing, salary slash, the potential order of the potential new business order. Joining us now is a renowned expert, security, legal and economic expert, Dr. Charles Omole. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning.
Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
morning, sir.
Before we get into the economy, we just finished talking about security. We've been talking decentralization for a long time. What are your general thoughts? Do you think the government is serious about this move to decentralize police? And if they are, do you think, how soon can we? Go ahead.
Well, I support the sentiment of the Senate committee, but I don't support their recommendation.
Okay.
If you are a student of history, you will find out that since 1999, we've had 3 presidential panels on policing. You know, in 2006, Obasanjo set up one. They made recommendations. Even the white paper was published of those recommendations. Nothing was done about it. In 2008, President Yar'Adua set up another presidential committee on policing, headed by Hemdi Yusuf. Again, they made the recommendations. White paper was published. Nothing was done. Then in 2008, President Jonathan set up another presidential committee on policing, headed by Pari Osanyode. Again, that one did not set up. There was no white paper produced for that one. But one thing come out to all these presidential, committees are a few things. Number one, they all recommended community policing, which is just words being banded. Nothing was done about it. And the issue of decentralization, what Nigeria needs to understand is that the problem we have with the police in Nigeria is funding, governance, and architecture. Those 3 things capture the problem we have. It's not whether it is centralized or decentralized. If you look at policing model worldwide, there are effective police that are national and centralized. There are effective police that are decentralized in different parts of the world. So it's not so much of the centralization or decentralization that is a problem of the police in Nigeria. It's a problem of funding, problem of governance, and problem of architecture.
Oh, interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we've had, on this security issue, we've had the government ban interstate movements right now because of the COVID-19. And yet, we still see young men being smuggled from all over Nigeria, circulating themselves, and they passed the borders where we're supposed to have police officials manning those places. So do you think if finally we end up with this decentralization, that it will change the effectiveness of the police? Or how do we change the effectiveness of the police right now?
Okay. Look, that's not going to change anything. In 1966, when Ironsi became the head of state, he set up an expert panel to look at police. As at that time, we had local and native police in addition to the Nigerian police force. So we had a 3-tier police system, and also the same thing with prisons at that time. And the report of that expert panel was that the native and local police were corrupt. They were being used by local politicians, and they were, all the accusations against the current Nigerian police existed in 1966.
Wow.
So eventually, when Gowon became president, he approved the recommendation, and the local and native police were merged with the Nigerian police force. The point I'm making is, those saying we should decentralize, we decentralized before. It didn't work. Now we centralized. It also didn't work. It's also not working, rather. So it tells you the issue is not whether it's centralized or decentralized. It's the way it's been set up. Nigerian police is not set up currently legally to succeed. It's been set up to fail because it has not been given the operational independence it needs. The laws enabling it has not given it the operational independence that it needs to function.
But that's why
it doesn't matter whether it's state or federal.
Yeah, that's why the senator said there'll be a constitutional review. You heard him earlier. Then they need that constitutional review first. Then hopefully these issues you're raising will be addressed, correct?
Absolutely. So they're putting the cart before the horse. So you're absolutely right. The constitutional review is needed to allow the police to be operationally independent. Right. Section 215 of the Constitution needs to be amended, to make the police not to be at the beck and call of the president or a governor, which is what would be. So when we say state police or whatever, people are campaigning, you are merely replacing the puppet masters.
Yeah. Oh, great.
We are replacing one president with 36 governors. You're going to have exactly the same problem.
Let's move on to the issue of economy, because you are a security, legal, and economic expert. So we need to ask you, COVID-19 obviously has hit a big blow to the Nigerian economy and even the fallen oil prices globally. We're hearing companies saying they're going to lay off, they're going to downsize, they're going to start engaging in virtual meetings and all that. They're going to change the entire company structure. In your view, do you think the companies this time are putting the cart before the horse? The reason I say so is because we're having issues with crude. Quite a number of essential services are still ongoing. So the economy is not totally grounded. We're still having certain aspects still functioning. So why are companies making it look as though COVID-19 is the real issue? Is COVID-19 the real problem they are trying to downsize, or they're just using COVID-19 as an opportunity to downsize?
Well, you do have a point in the sense that, COVID-19 has its peculiar problems and pressure on the Nigerian economy. But companies have always had concern about the quality of the workforce within the country. The problem I think we have in Nigeria is that we have a largely analog workforce for a digital world. So a lot of our workforce are not geared for the economy of the future. That has always been the case. Yes. What COVID-19 has done is it's made it more obvious now that there's a need for a complete retraining and refocus of our education and the capacity of our workforce to deal with the economy of the future. In fact, not only the private sector, I can predict that even governments going forward will shed a lot more jobs. Because where we are right now, because I remember, I think it was in the late 90s when I was part of a consortium going around different countries in Europe. As at that time, countries in Europe were introducing what we call e-government, which means how to take every government activity online. And what happened in many of the countries in Europe at that time is that a lot of the government downsized in terms of volume, because now things you physically need to go to government office to do, you can do practically everything online. Africa and Nigeria, of course, we are decades behind that, but that is the direction of travel. What COVID has done is to show how effective you can run your company without physically people coming to the office. Imagine saving your staff 6 hours of commute a day, and yet they were effective at home. So what that is doing is that companies are wising up and they are changing their management strategy. Right. Instead of managing attendance, they're now managing output or objectives.
Results.
Right.
So Nigeria is a mono economy, and everybody knows how our only major resource is being affected globally. What exactly what are our chances of of sustaining our economy based on what we get foreign exchange on? How is the fight between Russia and Saudi Arabia going to affect an average Nigerian on the streets? Most people don't understand what is happening. It could be that, it could be COVID. What exactly is the issue in the oil sector?
Well, the challenge with the oil sector is that it's always been a volatile commodity. And, over almost 80 to 90% of Nigeria foreign exchange is earned from crude oil. So we clearly have been hit badly by that. What government really needs to do is to, refocus certain things. Now, first thing I want to say before I actually go into that is, the way out for Nigeria, the way I see it, it's not for government to try and create more jobs. It's what I call entrepreneurial explosion. Yeah. That is what is needed to move Nigeria forward. You see, after the 1918-1919 pandemic, the Western economy suffered a lot. And then around 1928, 1929, it led to what we call the Great Depression in America, where the economy was on the floor. But the research showed that more Americans or more millionaires were made in America during the Great Depression than at any other time in American history up until that time. And what made that happen was not government creating more jobs, was people creating jobs for themselves. So what government needs to do is to create the atmosphere for an entrepreneurial explosion in Nigeria, not creating more jobs for people to be applying for. If we have an entrepreneurial explosion in Nigeria, there will be, the economy will rebound. In terms of oil, well, the challenge is oil price will eventually come up. That is a fact. It's cyclical. It goes up and down. But that doesn't really help us as a country if we don't refocus our economy. And also, we need to spend wisely. What do I mean by that? There's a need for reduction in the size of government in terms of recurrent expenditure. Secondly, the CBN, for example, need to conserve, the little foreign exchange it has. For example, last year, I think report, if I read correctly, the CBN spent billions of dollars last year to shore up the value of naira. That is not, we don't have that money for them to spend. Let naira float in the natural
okay, I have to pause you there. I have to pause you there because that's a really controversial issue. This issue of the naira, the fact that the government keeps almost subsidizing the dollar for us.
Absolutely.
So the fear is if we allow the naira to float at the right level, many things will be extremely expensive.
Wouldn't that be devaluing the money?
That means you now devalue the naira further. Is that not going to be counterproductive?
Well, it has its pros and cons. Based on report I got, last year, CBN spent $16.56 billion to shore up the value of naira. Think about that for a second. So you need to ask yourself, do we have those billions of dollars for them to continue? By the way, that's $16.5 billion not available for anything else that we could have used it for. So it comes both ways. If you are shoring up the value of naira, you are creating an artificiality which cannot be sustainable.
Right.
So you continually use your foreign exchange earnings to artificially shore up your currency. And when you're in a situation like this where you need every penny, then you might need to reconsider what you're using.
Dr. Omole, I want you to
forex.
paint a picture for us because I want Nigerians to understand what you're saying. So, for example, if they take off this subsidy on the dollar, whatever, and maybe naira becomes 1,000 naira to a dollar, just hypothetically speaking. Now, if we do that, what that can do or force us to do is number one, stop importing all these things we're importing, right? We now grow and eat locally. So the fact that we're continuing, because right now we're constantly buying stuff, we're constantly importing products to sell, that would then dissuade us from doing that, not enough need to force and look within. Is that the picture you're painting, or is there something else that we're missing here?
No. You're absolutely right. It will force us to look inward more. That's number one. Secondly, it will actually increase the foreign direct investment into Nigeria. I was meeting with a group of people a couple of weeks ago over online, and we're talking about investment in Nigeria. And the number one concern they raised was the currency. Because if you bring $1 billion, let's even use $1 million into Nigeria, you convert it into local currency. Even if you are getting 10% return on that investment, if by the time you want to repatriate your money, you are not sure of what the foreign exchange will be, the changes in foreign exchange will have wiped up any profit you made. So if people get jittery, bring your money to Nigeria because they're never sure. Yeah. Now you have a situation, I don't know whether any Nigerian abroad, when I've got it now our banks, it doesn't matter whether you have $1 billion naira in your account in Nigeria, you can only spend $500 abroad per month on your card, on your debit card.
Yeah.
Now, why? Because banks, the CBN is trying to conserve forex. So there are all kinds of impact it's having on the economy. We should allow the market to, to have its way. And, this is the same argument we have about subsidy, if you remember.
Right,
government subsidizing a petroleum product. Right. And we say we could have used the money for something else.
Ooh, thank you for taking us there. Geez, I need to go on a break because we'll come back to subsidy issue. Because now that crude oil prices have gone down, we're expecting that it should remove subsidy. Yeah, they said it removes subsidy. But why is PPEs still determining the pricing? We'll come to that when we go on after this break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
All right, no problem.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Dr. Omole, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we have to wrap up, but let me just very quickly, two last questions. What I was going to ask was, now that the subsidy has supposed to be lifted, for whatever reason, PPPRA is still determining the price. Can they still regulate based on the fact that they've removed subsidy? That's one. And BC also had another question.
Yes, I wanted to ask, taking you back to your initial analogy, I wanted to ask, what's the way forward for salary earners who will likely be losing their jobs at this time?
Okay, so 2 questions. Go ahead.
Well, starting from the last question, if you are a salary earner and you are poised to lose your job, the first thing I would tell you to do is make sure you reskill as soon as possible. There are lots of free courses online now. You know, many universities and training colleges have thrown up, their training facilities for free online. Reskill. Make sure you become technologically sound in your skill. You know, I mean, research has shown that by 2040, 40% of the job that exists today will no longer exist. They'll be done by machines. Wow. We live in a global village where that cannot be stopped. So you need to be technologically savvy. You can't afford to be analog in a digital world. So that for me is fundamental. If you are technologically sound, together with the residual skill you have, you will always find opportunity for job. In terms of subsidy, yes, the reason I think maybe PPRA is still doing what they're doing is probably because the bulk of not bulk, every crude oil, every petroleum product being sold in Nigeria has still been imported. So government intervention, some might say may be needed from there. But the hope is that when Dangote refinery comes upstream, 650,000 barrels per day will be produced locally. Okay. As a result, the need to import refined products will reduce drastically and price stability will return, as it were, to the petroleum market.
Thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. We'd love to have you back soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Be safe, ladies.
All right.
Thank you.
So we're speaking to the renowned expert, a security expert, legal and economist, Dr. Charles Omole. Let's go on a break. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So since the outbreak of the pandemic in our country, the working conditions and the welfare of our health workers have been generating quite a bit of talking points. With the rate at which our health workers are being exposed in their line of duties, hereby increasing their infection rates on a daily basis needs urgent attention. Joining us now is the president of the Nigerian Medical Association, Dr. Francis Faduyile. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, good to have you on the show with us. So we've been getting reports from all over the country, doctors getting infected. We've spoken to government agencies and they're telling us that PPE is getting to the hospitals. Many of them are saying that the nurses, some of them are even refusing to come to work. They're scared. As the president of the Medical Association, how have you been able to address some of these issues concerning health workers being infected?
Thank you very much. You may have seen that at our MOU that we signed with the government about 2 weeks ago, we re-emphasized that for us to be able to have proper treatment of COVID-19 positive patients, we must be able to have the PPE distributed to all the hospital outlets. Unfortunately, as of today, we have not had a good report that we have had even distribution of these PPEs. And I must say that the PPE are the things that are needed for any medical officer or health practitioner to be able to put on so that they can properly treat patients and protect themselves at the same time. As it were, we must be able to enforce on the government to ensure that these PPEs are either produced locally so that we can have large stock or getting distributed to all the nooks and crannies in Nigeria, especially all the public and private health outlets.
Right. Okay.
So in Kano, for instance, what the rumor was that, most of the doctors kept turning people back home after basic medicines are prescribed because of lack of PPEs. And the governor this morning in the paper was saying, do not turn them back. You're increasing the number of cases in Kano by turning people back. What would be your advice to doctors in states where PPEs are an issue or the fear of catching COVID is rife? Like in Kano?
Well, that's a very difficult question. It's like you're asking military men to go to war and you have not given them ammunition when you know that they are not going to fight wrestling at the war front. It's a serious matter for a doctor or a health officer to see a patient who is a potential COVID-19 patient must be fully geared in the normal protective gowns as well as PPE so that he does not put himself or herself in unnecessary risk, get himself or herself infected, and won't be able to see more patients. You see, every single doctor or health worker that is infected is a big minus to the health response in this country because those ones will have to go into isolation. They will not be able to see other patients. And you know that Nigeria, ab initio, has not gotten enough doctors, nurses, and other health practitioners.
Okay. Dr. Faduyile, are you saying that your advice to your colleagues is do not touch except PPEs are provided?
The Honorable Minister of Health told all medical and health professionals that they should be properly kitted before seeing any patient. And it means the management of every hospital must provide the necessary personal protective equipment for its workers to be able to see patients in their hospitals.
All right, so what you are saying in essence is a lot of people, because I've been getting calls and text messages, I actually have one in front of me, where people are saying that they go to the hospitals and they are not being attended to and they don't have COVID-19 for other ailments. So what you're saying now is are you saying, let me put it as a question, that if the hospitals do not have the PPEs, the patients should not bother coming, they should go home?
I can tell you categorically that medical doctors, as well as other health workers, report daily to their workplace. And it means they are ready to perform the duties that will be assigned to them.
But they are not working, sir.
The fact that they are there means they are ready to work. You will not provide, for example, a patient who is hypertensive and you don't have a suite. There's nothing any doctor could do because you cannot know the hypertension reading, the blood pressure reading by merely seeing the face. You must have a suite in the hospital. And if you don't have PPE, and I want to correct one impression. Many of our staff, our members who have been infected, were infected by patients who came with totally different symptoms away from COVID-19. We have heard of cases of long labor that patients have actually gone to, that the doctors had actually gone ahead to do a cesarean section on them, and it was after that they knew that the patient was COVID-19. Unfortunately, one of the doctors contracted the disease and died in that respect.
Right.
So it will be very difficult for anybody to say any patient comes, it's not COVID-19, because there's no way you can know it's COVID-19 until it is tested.
Now, as the president of the Nigerian Medical Association, are you aware of how many PPEs we even have? Because before we thought of distribution, let's even know, do we have enough? And if we have enough, is it being equitably distributed across the country? And are you monitoring it? Because it's one thing to say have it, another thing is that do we even have it in stock at all?
Well, I must tell you that we are not members of that high technical team that knows how much we have in stock. But we have a very strong conviction that we will not have as many that can cover the whole country. We have advised the government also to see to how we can have local production so as to be able to support those that have been imported. But I can tell you, the distribution pattern too, we are not in such committee, and they have hidden that from us.
This is Nigeria, and many families are, we are used to doing a lot of things ourselves, provide electricity, borehole, and now we're educating our kids ourselves at home. And so we're used to doing things ourselves. Some people suggested the other day that if private people can get their own PPEs, have it stashed about maybe like 5 or 10. So if you need to go to the hospital, just take 1 or 2 along with you. When you get to the hospital, just give it to the nurse or give it to the doctor. So at least for your own, they can attend to you. Is that a likely suggestion for private people to begin to get PPEs? At least temporarily until we know we have enough in the country.
I plead with the government to do the needful. The government must do the needful. They must see that the supplies in the hospitals are enough. I was looking at some of the areas, some of the countries where we have this COVID-19, and what has been prescribed was that they must have 3 months stock of PPE. So I will not subscribe to patients buying PPEs, bringing them to the hospitals, but I will subscribe government doing the necessary things, supporting the private investors of manufacturers to be able to get more home-made PPE, and we'll be able to have enough for our population.
Final question.
I'm sure you'd agree with me that the government is overwhelmed. So instead of just sitting back and waiting for government to do what is expected to do, which we don't know when it's going to come, are you having talks with organizations, non-governmental organizations, and other bodies that have been supporting during this time to find a way to get palliatives to different hospitals so that they can attend to patients? Is that something you're doing?
Certainly, it's one of those things that we are looking seriously into. For example, we have launched out a foundation of safe our private healthcare practitioners, because even when we are talking about PPEs, the government looks as if they are not interested in taking care of the private health institutions, and the private health institutions account for up to 60% of cases of patient load in this country. Many of them have closed their shops, their hospitals, because they do not have requisite number of protective devices. And what we have been doing on our own is to try to talk to people, because the government has not fully involved us. Those we can talk to, we are talking to them, and we are hoping that the government can also stimulate those local manufacturers to get some of this done in the country.
Okay, let me give a final question to you. Go ahead, Hima.
Okay, sir. The Madagascar solution to COVID is in the country now, and a lot of people are now just saying, no, let's test it. What is your take on it?
Well, I must tell you that for orthodox medicine, there are processes. Okay. We do not just say we have a drug and then the next thing is for you to pick it and just... Orthodox medicine, human beings cannot be guinea pigs. Yes, they have told us that the Madagascar solution is doing it's having some good response. The same way we have had when we started with hydrochloroquine or remdesivir or other drugs. We have to take it with a pinch of salt, do the necessary testing on them, and ensure that there are no long-time or short-time side effects, as well as to check the efficacy.
Right.
As you know, COVID-19 has about 5 to 6% fatality rate. So many people will still, one way or the other, survive the infection. So we have to be careful of anyone that does that.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning, sir. We appreciate your thoughts on the show.
Thank you very much.
We've been speaking with the president of the Nigerian Medical Association, Dr. Francis Faduyile. That's all we can take on the show. Yeah. In a bid to protect yourself continually, please wash your hands, use the sanitizers, and maintain social distancing. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.